growing.
Poppy, I had a lot of fun with you, sweetheart. You want to give me kisses? Yes, this is Poppy. She doesn't have too bad a stinky breath, just a little bit stinky breath. This is Poppy's roadmap to success. She's a Terrier mix. The Guardians aren't sure exactly the DNA test, and actually if you're going to do a DNA test, and you should ask the company whatever you think your dog has. The accuracy of the test is dependent on how deep their database is. So if you think she has Tibetan Terrier in her, and you ask and they say they don't have any, it'll come back as inconclusive. And there were a couple inconclusives, I remember. Oh, you're going straight for the treats, huh? Smarty pants. Okay, so are you gonna go straight to the, put your mouth right in there, huh? Okay, so let me see. We talked about flipping the leader-follower dynamic by enforcing rules. That's one of the first things we talked about, that and exercise. So remember, the exercise, increasing our exercise can help with the carpet licking and some of the other unwanted behaviors. And let's just go ahead and put this out of sight, out of mind. Let me see. Here we go. There you go, Poppy. So one of the things we talked about is the stairs. There's stairs outside the apartment. We can use this doggy stairmaster. Get a retractable leash, touch her nose with a treat, throw it to the bottom, and when she goes down the bottom, come up with a command word that means go down. Say it after it goes in her mouth, and then call her back up, give her another treat. Remember, the first time you do it with an empty stomach so you can see, and do it until she just says, I'm not going back down there anymore. And you know how many, if you count each down up as one, you know how many is her maximum number. Then you want to exercise her about 25 to 50% of her maximum. The laser, she may like, may not like. Jury's still out on that one. Chasing the ball, I showed the Guardians how to teach her to fetch. Just wait for her to have an object in her mouth, go over, hold the treat in front of her. As soon as she drops the item, don't tell her drop. As soon as she drops it, pop in her mouth and say the word drop, and then don't pick up the item. If she has a high value item, something she's not allowed to have, like tennis shoes or a shirt or something, go over, touch her nose with the treat. When she drops it, give her the treat, say drop, and then pull out a bully stick, give her the bully stick, and then take away the item. So we're going to trade for higher value items. But if she likes to fetch, and once you can teach her to drop, that's a wonderful way to teach her, have her exercise. iFetch is a machine that was on Shark Tank. It lets the dog play fetch by itself inside. So it might be something you might want to get her. She's also kenneled or at daycare during the day, but she's not having a great time. And she's not fighting dogs, but she's not having the best time at daycare. So the Guardians might want to try having her at home alone when they go to work. One of the Guardians has a job where it requires her to be gone for quite a while. And they're worried about it. So I would recommend getting a dog walker. So they come in the middle of the day, take her for a little walk so she gets to relieve her bladder and gives her a little stimulation. And then during the day, maybe get the Vram pet robot, the automatic ball fetching machine, fill a Kong up with peanut butter, and I will also maybe give her a bully stick or a cow's knee. The edibles we talked about, bully stick, the ones I get are from the Natural Dog Company, and they're the odor-free bully sticks. You could probably get for her bully bites, which would be a little bit smaller. And then my favorites are the cow kneecaps. Most dogs love them, and they last quite a bit longer than the bully sticks. You can also get tracheas. I don't like using rawhides because they're soaked in bleach, formaldehyde, and ammonia, and because the dogs ingest them, there's a lot of health issues. I prefer these other edibles. If you want something that looks like a rawhide, you can use a cow's cheek. Won't be quite as big, but it's pretty much a similar thing, but just not so nasty. Let me see. You can also get duck feet, turkey heads, chicken feet, oxtails. Marrow bones are wonderful. Marrow bones like the highest value thing. So you get like 1-inch marrow bones, keep them in your freezer frozen, take it out, let it, and right before you leave, maybe put a marrow bone or a bully stick or a cow knee, one of those, and a Kong filled with peanut butter, and then you leave. Now she has a couple things that preoccupy her. And dogs sleep 17 hours a day. Most people are thinking their dogs are at home whining and pining for them. Sometimes they do, but usually they're asleep half the time, if not more. So getting some of those, you can also get cod skins, cow's ears, pig hooves. There's a whole bunch of bones with actual marrow or not marrow. All right, I'll just go ahead and take a chop by myself. And so getting her a couple of those edibles, also getting her some other chew toys. So since she likes the soft ones, and smaller dogs can get away with more smaller ones or soft ones. You can also, if she turns them up, get the stuffless ones. But she should have at least 20 toys, if not more. I usually like to have 20, and I have her in my closet or somewhere. I have a reserve of 5 or 10 new toys. So if you have a guest come over, she's being a nuisance, you might be able to give her one of those toys to play with. You also have some toys that like you can press a button and it's a ball that rolls around the room. There are balls that make sounds. I would get her some Nylobones that are flavored barbecue and what's the other one? Barbecue and bacon. And different shapes. Everybody gets the ones that look like skeleton bones that actually no bones look like. I have one that's round, kind of O shape with some nubs on it. I have one that's a letter Y that's a bacon flavor that my dogs really like. And one that's a forearm that people think it's something that's not a dog toy. But getting a variety of those things and giving her a basket to go get them every day, pick them all up and put them back in the basket. And that's something you can teach her. Put your toys away. And then, so it gives her something to do to preoccupy her. Speaking of which, since she is a smart dog, I'd like the guardians to practice teaching her. It'd be nice if the guardians could each make a commitment to teach her 4 new tricks or commands each, and then alternate. On Sunday of this week, Guardian A is going to teach, and then you teach rollover. And then all week long, before I feed you, before I pet you, before you get in here or get there or go out the door, you got to roll over for everything. At the end of the week, I call it stunt dog, come up with a funny name for it. Every time at the end of the week, she's just rolling over like crazy. Then the next week, Guardian B takes over, and he teaches her to do a different trick. And we do teach rollover, play dead should be the next one, or vice versa. And then at the end of and then you practice that one and rep that one all week. At the end of 8 weeks or 2 months, she will have 8 new commands plus what she has now. Dogs that have about 10 or more commands typically have reached a kind of a tipping point in terms of their confidence levels. And so you will really want to try to get your dog to know at least 10 different commands. Some dogs, if they're smart, even more is even better. So she's licking the carpet, so I'm redirecting her, distracting her, just throwing a treat. She walked away. Now she's looking for me instead of and you should interpret that as her way of saying, I need some exercise. So start that exercise journal, write down the day at the top and how long the time and how long the walk was, the time and how many up, downs, and the stairs, or whatever they are, and keep on giving a letter grade until eventually you get to an A, B, any sort of A grade at the end of the day, and you're like, okay, now this is what we need to do to get her the exercise she needs. Dogs, when they're under-exercised or under-stimulated, often get into trouble, and I'm guessing part of that is what's going on with her. Okay, we also talked about rules and structure and helping the humans act like leaders by enforcing rules consistently. So some of the rules that I suggested would be that she is not on the furniture, which she's not a huge furniture dog. I showed the guardians how to get her to go to the dog bed on command, and keep on repping that one. And get a different dog bed for other rooms and give it a different command word for each dog bed. Speaking of command words, come up, sit down together, get a bottle of wine or whatever you guys like to do, and write down a list of all the official actions you want her to do, and then the command words that we already have, so you agree on them so you're both synced up. And then say vocabulary if somebody is using the wrong version of the word. And it was just to make it easier for her. Let me see, what else? Other rules we talked about, not being allowed to be within 7 feet of the humans when they're eating food in here. And she can be anywhere else. She doesn't have to go specifically there. She just can't be within 7 feet of us. And as long as she's not breaking other rules. When we're cooking food in the kitchen, she should not be allowed in the kitchen. If we're going through a door, we should go through the door first. For the door, I usually go to the door and I tell the dog to sit, and the dog has to sit before I open that door. If I say sit and the dog doesn't sit, after 3 seconds, I walk away, I sit down somewhere, and I wait 1 minute and set a timer because it'll go by too fast. After 1 minute, go back to the door and tell her again to sit. If she doesn't sit this time, I'll walk away for 2 minutes, then 4 minutes, then 8 minutes, and keep on doubling length of time until eventually, and she sits, you open the door right away. Now we have a screen door there, so I'd open the door, then I would attach the leash, and then we can go out for the walk, but again, you go through the door first. Also, eating is very important for dogs. It's what they spend 90% of their time in the wild doing. So the guardians need to eat something before they feed her. Now, if you're not going to eat your real meal, you're going to eat breakfast at work or something else, all you got to do is just eat something at 5 or more bites. So what I do is I go in the kitchen, I use that third escalating consequence to march the dog out of the kitchen, and when I walk back in the kitchen, I walk backwards. I take a left foot, right foot, and I stop. If the dog crosses the threshold, I rush towards them. And I stop once they get on the other side of the threshold, or when I get to the threshold, whichever one happens first. Then once the dog stops moving, I take 2 steps backwards and I stop. The dog stays put, I take 2 more steps backwards. And I'm keeping my authority pointed at the dog. And eventually I get back to where the food is, and I put the dog food in the bowl, and I'm keeping my eye on the dog, and I put it all in there. And then I lean against the counter and I eat a chip or cracker or something in 5 or more bites. Then I invite the dog to come over, and she probably won't cross the threshold at that point, but encourage when she does. When she takes her first bite of food, use passive training to give her a sign, a command word. So say, meatball or sushi or empanada or whatever your favorite food is, or you name it your restaurant, or I say grub, chow, feast, and lasagna, whatever words you want. And say that for about 2 months. So after about 2 months, you'll be able to say lasagna, and she goes, that means I get to go eat. Now, we also went over, so enforcing rules and boundaries is going to help the guardians appear to be leaders. Also build up some respect for them as authority figures. Teaching them new tricks or commands is also going to build up her respect for them as authority figures and give us, like I said, different ways to redirect her. Now we also went over my petting with a purpose and my passive training methods.
Petting with a purpose is if the dog demands attention from me, I ask the dog to do something that I want, sit. If it's already sitting, I ask him to sit over here or ask him to lie down. Once it does something, then I pet it under its chin, and I say the word sit or crash or whatever the word is, and only those words. But I can pet the dog as long as I want. Now, if I catch somebody petting the dog and it's standing or it looks like they might not have petted with a purpose, then I say the word paycheck, and that person has to stop petting, tell the dog to sit, and when it sits, pet it on the chin, and say, actually, I did it right, you just missed it. It's just a gentle reminder for each other. Now, even if you want to pet the dog, still ask the dog to sit or do something. If it doesn't, just lean back and watch TV or read something on your phone. So you're just telling the dog, look, I got other things to do. I'd love to give you my time, but if you don't want to pay for my time by sitting or doing something to be polite, then I got other things to do and you miss out. I kind of made a mistake. I talked to the guardians on the phone. We booked the appointment about a week or two ago, and I said to play aloof, which we did, but then I didn't give the petting with a purpose part of it, or the passive training part. So we want to make sure that we motivate her to want to do it. We just don't want her to think like, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I want to have to do with you if you do things the way that I want them to do, and I reward you for doing them. So after a while with petting with a purpose, she'll come and sit in front of you to prepay for attention. When she does, make sure you reward her as much as you can. Even just a quick scratch, then go back to work. Otherwise, she'll go back to nudging you or jumping at you. I also went over passive training. Passive training is waiting for the dog to voluntarily, organically offer you a behavior or an action without any influence from you whatsoever. If I'm holding treats and she comes and sits, I'm influencing it. So I'm just kind of hanging out. She comes to me, I'm going to pet her and say, come. If she sits down next to me, I pet her and say, sit. She lays down, I pet her and say, crash, or whatever it is. Every time she brings the alligator, pet her and say, alligator. After a while, like I say, certain food, name of restaurant or whatever, when she's eating. So after a while, you create this vocabulary, which makes it easier for you to communicate what you do or don't want from her. You have to have A before you can say B, which would be not doing the thing. Let me see. For potty training, even though she doesn't have accents in the house, I would recommend coming up with a command word like business or whatever you want. So every time she starts to pee or poop, you say the word business in a normal tone of voice. And when she gets done, you pop a treat in her mouth and say the business after the treat goes in her mouth. Remember, every time you give her a treat, no matter what the activity or exercise is, the treat goes in the first, and then they hear the command word afterwards. That allows the treat to be looked at, or the command word to be a little bit brighter, a little bit more positive because of that. Do that when you're out on a walk, shoot potties, say potty or business. I don't like using potty, but business or whatever the word is, and then give her that treat afterwards. Now, because the guardians have like a little deck out here that she can go out to, but she goes and lays on the little fake grass, which is designed for her to pee on. She just sunbathes on it. Well, it's fine, but there's other place for her to sunbathe. So what I would do is capture a little bit of her urine or have other dogs pee on it. And then once she starts smelling her urine or other dogs' urine, that's going to attract her to start peeing on there. And that way, if we're leaving her home alone, if we do convert that to a dog door, well, then she can actually let herself in and out. But I think she's going to be a lot happier being here. The socialization part is good. We want to get her social experience. And I would look for a dog or two that she can play with or go for walks together. The guardians took her to a friend's house to watch her when they went out of town. It just didn't go all that well. If I want to do that, I set the dog up for success. I walk the dogs together for a couple of walks before I let them play or before I drop them off. And so dogs get over things by literally moving forward. But you got to make sure not one dog's in front, because that dog thinks, I'm in front, you're not. So we keep everybody in a line. Human, dog, and that way nobody's in front, nobody's behind. The dogs smell each other, see each other, hear each other. We both would have got that squirrel if we weren't on these damn leashes. And they have that bonding common experience. And because they're moving forward, they help them process things. And just like us, the more we're around somebody, the more comfortable we are with that person. So the dog gets more comfortable through shared experiences in positive behavior patterns, then that just kind of going to continue. So let me see. I also went over the escalating consequences to disagree with unwanted actions and behaviors. Remember, hiss, stand up and turn to face the dog, keep in front of you until it stops moving, take 2 steps backwards and pause, and go back to doing what you're doing. Third one is to march deliberately at the dog until the dog turns sideways or greater. At that point, we stop, we pivot, go to the second consequence, pivot, dog stationary, 2 steps backwards and stop. Unless the dog is in a designated no dog zone when it turns sideways, we continue marching at it until it gets the edge, and that's where we stop enforcing it. That's how we create an invisible boundary. And practicing those invisible boundaries when you don't need them is the best way to do it. So a lot of times I'll tell people when you're actually eating your lunch, you're thinking about eating lunch, you're distracted. So what I do instead is I would get a piece of bacon, microwave it, and then bring my sandwich and the bacon out and put it on the table. Every time the dog crosses the threshold, because the bacon's going to make it smell, ooh, I'm going to give me some of that, and we hiss before it crosses the line or march at it and enforce that line. Once she sits or lies down, then we actually start eating our sandwich. So we kind of help her do a dry run first to know what we want, and then we do the actual activity. Now, last thing is kind of an encapsulation of what I do as a dog behaviorist, is anytime my dog fails at an activity or behavior, I recreate that situation later on, but I control the environment. I cheat, and I make it the easiest possible version, and then I help the dog by practicing each individual step, the first step over and over and over until the dog's offering that first step without any of the succeeding steps. Once the dog gets the first step, then I go to the second one, and we practice that one alone until the dog does that one. Once it does all the steps individual in the easiest version possible, then I bring all the steps together in the easiest version possible. Once the dog is behaving well, then I start gradually raising the criteria till I work my way back to the real world situation. Now I've taught the dog how to behave, I've helped them practice how to behave, I've assigned a command word, and then it should be a lot easier for the dog to do. Now, if we don't have a healthy leader-follower dynamic though, the dog's like, I understand what you want, I choose not to do it. That's why we enforce rules, we add structure through petting with a purpose and passive training to get the dog motivated to want to listen to us. Is there anything else I didn't go over that you want me to go over? Poppy, I use a kissing sound as my affirmation. Sit. There we go, Poppy. I have one more treat here. Do you want this other treat? Let's get you up in my lap. Oh, yes, Poppy. This is Poppy, and this is Poppy's treat. Oh, for the treats, they're turkey trainer, chicken liver. Make sure you burp all the air out of the bag. You'll forget to do that. Oh, and toys. Make sure she has at least 20 toys. So again, the edibles I talked about, but I'd like to also get her a couple Nylabones, an antler or two, a water buffalo horn, a regular bone, and get some marrow bones, some frozen 1-inch marrow bones. So when you start leaving, you should give her a stuffed Kong and a marrow bone, or a stuffed Kong and a bully stick or a cow's ear, something like that. And when you do start practicing leaving, don't go to dinner. Just practice. It's Southern California. It's beautiful. It's done raining for the next 5 years now. So when it's a nice day, put her in here, and you can FaceTime with your phone. And then just see what she does when you're just right down in the courtyard or sitting in your car. And so that way, if she does start chewing something wrong, you can run into the apartment and stop her from doing it, stop her from developing a bad behavior pattern. But the more that we do that, and then gradually elongating. Now, first time you leave, I would leave, close the door, lock it, wait a second, then unlock it, come right back in, sit down. No big deal. No fanfare when you come and go either. If she's really excited when you pet her, and you're going to make her more excited. So when you're leaving, non-production. When you come back, non-production. And then gradually, after you leave for 1 second, then 2 seconds, 5 seconds, and just start reading a book out, put a little, lawn chair out on your deck, outside your door, and sit there, bring your lemonade, and enjoy this nice Southern California weather where the rest of the country is frozen. And basically, it gives your dog an opportunity to practice being alone, and you're on the other side of the door in case you need to. But make sure she doesn't know that you're right outside, so you might have to go to the bottom of the stairs or whatever it is. All right, Poppy, do you have any other questions for me? Nope. She's like, leave some treats and some bully sticks and we're good. Well, this is Poppy, and this is Poppy's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you need it.